Okay, let's pick up with chapter 12 and start talking about us now. So, we talked about some of the developments that we see in archaic Homo sapiens around the world. We've seen this, that Homo erectus spread throughout all of Europe, Africa, Asia, and even some of the islands like Indonesia. And there was some gene flow between some of these communities, some of these populations, and some genetic drift that was taking place in other populations. But where do we come from? Where's the earliest evidence that we come from? Now, before we get into what we are and where we come from, I want to make a distinction that I started out talking about chapter 12 in terms of anatomically modern humans, and that's specifically refers to the anatomy, right? What are the physiological characteristics that differentiate us from either an archaic Homo sapiens or a Homo erectus or a Neanderthal or something else? What are the differences? But looking like and having the same characteristics of a human isn't necessarily behaving and acting like a human. And we're still changing in biologically, we're still changing behaviorally, but when do we see the anatomical features start to emerge, but then also when do we start to see humans act like humans? And those two things, anatomically modern humans and behaviorally modern humans, do not actually coincide exactly the same timeline. So we're going to talk about both of these features, but this transition from archaic to modern is a biological transition, but then something else happens with us, that we start to do things with our brains that no one else did. And these aren't just things like tools, although you might call them extensions of our ability to do stuff, but things like art. And art may not seem like an extremely important element of our evolution, but it is our ability to use our brains to imagine, to close our eyes and think about the world, imagine what doesn't exist, and then dream up something else. And as we're going to see, that allowed humans to do things that no other creature's ever been able to do. To go to the moon, in fact. And probably within our lifetimes, we might see someone on another planet. So these are things that no other animal is doing because they are not imagining them. And so imagination is a key element to our behavioral modernity, and none of those the cave paintings at Lascaux and other locations in Europe and places that you see, the earliest art, abstract art probably ever developed was in Blombos Cave in South Africa on a piece of ochre, but those are later than the anatomically modern human features. So those come later, but it's only humans that did art. It's only humans that have this kind of imagination, and it took us very far from our origin point. So where is our origin point? Well, the earliest evidence that we have for anatomically modern humans, Homo sapiens, is from Africa. So we talked about some of the models that we need to think about in terms of